Okay. Oh my gosh. Sinadopi. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday, the Native Wellness Institute's Power Hour. Nistu Nidaniko Mokoyo Sokoyi. It is my second Blackfoot name. It is my first Blackfoot name was Okstokama. My grandma Agnes Otstanikiwa gave me that name when I was about a year and a half. So this new name, I'm just growing into it because I just received it 5 years ago. I guess I'm an enrolled member of Skapi Pikani, but I'm also a member of Kainai, Siksikai area, and Brockett Pikani, and it's known as the Blackfoot Confederacy. And so I'm coming to you. I just want to share with you. I am at the Healing Tree, and I believe it's in at Northern Quest Resort and Casino, and I've decided to go live in my vehicle because for some reason, when I go inside there, and it must be so that you just gamble away, none of the Wi-Fi is working on any of my devices. So I had to come and find, they try to trick us Indians. They try to trick us in the rural areas where we can't get Wi-Fi. So this is where I could get Wi-Fi. And so I decided I have so much to share with you. There's like 200 people here, and they're like all into wellness. They're all into recovery. And most of them are certified clinicians. And they work with all kinds of addictions. We had a wonderful presentation. This conference started like 20 years ago with the Kalispel tribe. So shout out to the Kalispel tribe. And it was because they were conscientious as a tribe, having they have a mega casino and resort with concerts and buffets and 12 places to eat, and it's just and they're so considerate because they even have like an area that is all fun for children, so the adults never take them into where they're gambling. They can bring them there. They have certified child care workers that have fun activities. So I thought that was really good because they think about the family. And so I just wanted to let you know where I was. Good. Melissa, Stefan, Victoria, Christina, I see some of you. So I'm just going to share some things with you. And I wanted to start, and the reason, if you look at me, I just got out of the spa. The badass auntie was in the spa. And, it started at like 9:15. And it was one of those self-care, self-love, because I had a full day yesterday of just facilitating healing, and it was good stuff. So I'm going to share some of that with you. But I want to talk about the spa just for a moment. We have white robes in our beautiful rooms, and they have these beds that you just sleep so good. Everything here is like for comfort. And so I've been coming here for 20 years, like speaking on wellness and self-care, and I never went to the spa. Isn't that kind of crazy? So I said my prayers, yesterday, and I said, no matter what's happening, put it on pause and go to the spa. So I woke up just leisurely, lit my smudge, said my prayers, checked in with family members and those I love. And then I went to the spa. And you get there and they have other robes that are so cushy, so soft. They have slippers. I had this, but then they put your stuff in a locker, and it smells so good. All I could smell, and the one smell, it was almost like how when I'm in the woods and there's like lavender and there's like wild chamomile grows around my house. So I could smell that. But that really comforted me, was having these smells. And so I'm just describing and I'm doing this because it's Wellness Wednesday and I'm encouraging you to go to the spa. And so then, we're asked all kinds of questions, just for our comfort, and then we're put in a room that the light is dim. You get under just cushiony massage type of bedding. You rest your head. And a lot of what I appreciated was the questions around, like, what spots of your body need extra care? So we're talking about the spa. I just got out because look at, I was like, looking like my circulation must be good or something. Or I got like massage brain. Anyway, so this is what I told her. Is yesterday we had, and they're all native, we had a native grandma from the Colville area, and she had her daughter and her 11-year-old granddaughter, and they were doing like the Zen Buddhist sound treatment. And I did that for a couple hours, and so did, oh man, there might have been 50 people in there. It was funny because we got to lay on the floor. And I was just thinking to myself, I have these funny moments because I kept when I get healings or when I'm in ceremony, I often close my eyes because eyes can deceive you, and so I like to feel the spirits and feel inside my body. And so in the spa, she asked the same question. She said, what part of your body do you think you need extra care? And like, I'm not, I'm 67 years old, but I don't have like, I'm so grateful. No pain. I don't have any pain on my body. But I asked her, I said, yesterday I said they wanted us to put a little sticky where we wanted to be doctored. And so I put it right here. And I said, because whenever I heal, when I'm healing, I have a couple reactions. I mean, tears, but the healing, you're healing in your body, and this is often a response because we talked about it, is when you cough. Like when they're taking stuff out of you that is not, that could be toxic or is not good for you. And even, taking negative thoughts and replacing it with loving thoughts, with forgiveness and kindness in your brain. And so I put it right here, and I said, because I said I always cough, or this is you guys know, like, it's bright morning here, we're on Pacific Standard Time, and you're with the Native Wellness Institute's Power Hour, is I start yawning when I'm healing, and it's like a like that. And so I said, so I put it right here because I think whatever, it's like words, and it's like next to my ears, what I hear, what I smell, and I just need doctoring like right here. And the sound treatment for 2 hours, it doctored me, because one of the other signs of healing, and I wasn't sad, and I was just healing, and when I was laying down, tears were rolling out of my eyes and rolling down my face. Tears, and that's like a reaction of, sometimes when I used to like Sundance, which I did with Buster Yellow Kidney's bundle for 10 years. I wouldn't be crying, and would be sundancing, and there'd just be tears rolling down my face. And so that happened yesterday. So this spa experience, she was so had healing hands, And she was a non-native, but we connected because we were women. And she took out, I told her, so this is Wellness Wednesday. When you go to the spa, I was telling her, I said, yesterday, everybody in our group of about 50, we all said we carry our stress right here. You know, your exes, your relatives, your budget, your finances, a couple Republicans, we carry them right. So, she totally took out everything, and it was like in over an hour. She took out all and it has to be unseen energy. She took it out right here. So I just wanted to share that with you. So I'm kind of like very mellow. I feel just like a peacefulness, just an incredible peacefulness and high hopes for the future of Indian country. And so I wanted to share with you what is happening here. Just because I want you to consider, when is the next retreat that you're going to go to, or the next healing conference that you're going to attend, and how you're going to do self-care. Because we just, this is an anniversary. Native Wellness Institute has been in existence for 23 years, but today is 3 years when we all went on Power Hour for 3 years, 7 days a week, 5 days a week, and now we're doing Wellness Wednesday. And so I guess I want to talk about some healthy sexuality, because that was a biggie yesterday. And so maybe I'll start with that. They wanted a keynote on healing, but from a native perspective, and it was so gracious, because there was non-natives, but they were our allies. And I saw them madly taking notes as I was talking about just for healings around grief, that sometimes that is in your respiratory, manifests itself, and feelings around fear that manifests itself in your kidneys, kidney stones, renal failure later on, and loss. And we've had a lot of loss, not only of people, but places and things during these last 3 years. And that can affect your heart. If you have, I take a low dose of high blood pressure medicine, which is what Dr. DeRozier on the Blackfeet Reservation, who was a Blackfeet doctor, recommended. And then so that loss can manifest itself, in extreme, like stroke, heart attacks, that kind of stuff. And I'm saying this because we need to let our body talk to us. The other feeling, and I see this a lot, is with Indian country, is anger and resentments. And resentments, the part that your body that it tells on you is with your gallbladder. Gallstones, getting out your gallbladder early. And so we started talking about that, and it was interesting. It was just so cool because there was so much healing. So the sound therapy was there. There was just so many available mind, body, and spirits at the healing tree here with the Kalispel tribe. And so, so what I wanted to share with you is they asked me, and it's because of my role on Reservation Dogs. They asked me to do a session of healing with Auntie Priscilla. So it was an incredible, just a healing for us that I'd like to describe. And the way that I'd like to describe it is with Native Wellness Institute, we, over the years, we have wellness in the workplace, we have healthy relationships, but we have a handout. And I've actually got it right here, and you can come to one of our trainings, and I just wanted to share some of the healing, because the group that came in, the majority, and it was so cool because we started out, and one of the questions, because we had been together and there was trust, we started out with a question just going around, and there was like 50 or more people, and then people came in and we just asked them to join us. So Native Wellness Institute, we don't do theater style. Most of us don't do death by PowerPoint. And so the question that we asked, and it was just so beautiful, is we asked, at what age did you lose your virginity? So if you're willing, in the comments or the chat here, just to put at what age you lost your virginity. And it was interesting because it went from, there was a lot of 14-year-olds. There was a lot of 17, 18-year-olds when they lost their virginity. And then there was a 21-year-old, a 25-year-old. And then we came around the circle, and there was one, it was a father who was blind, and he had a couple of sons, and the sons would take turns. He just puts his hand on his shoulder, and they lead him. They've just been here. It's just so cool because you could see a symbolic connection of a father's love and a son's love. So when we came around to that area, there was several young people who there were still virgins. And they were laughing, but they just proudly said, I'm still a virgin, so I still have not had sex. And the crowd lulu'd, like, we're in the circle, and they're going, there's this young person that says, I'm a virgin. And then the crowd just kind of went, oh, yay, wow, because there's a healing around that. And it has to do with, at Native Wellness Institute, our biggest healing root causes is sexual assault and rape and missing and murdered and all of that. But what you had was these young people who hadn't experienced any of that. And so I just apologize. I'm just plugging in to get some juice here. And so then we went around the circle, and then it got more truthful. As we went around the circle, people started to not only say, I was 14 and I was scared, or I was 14 and I was excited. I was 15 but I want to say there was one person in the circle who just couldn't respond and didn't. And so, facilitating delicately, and we said, that's okay. We can, just, we can come back around, or just please stay with us. But this person sat there and cried most of the session and just had tears, but didn't leave and didn't answer any of those questions, because that was probably a hurtful or a wound, thinking about at what age she had lost her virginity. And she had gray hair, and she was, I don't want to assume anything. She just participated. And it was, but I want to mention that because there was safety. And I did see her, we did several laughing exercises, and I did see her laughing. I did see her engaged. We did hugging exercises. We did all of this self-care kind of stuff. We passed balloons, which is a safety. It's creating safety between our knees around the whole circle. And it was Just as usual, that's an old Gona exercise, but everybody at this event had not done that before, and they were just laughing and laughing and laughing. And then we did a couple of break up into groups and do more intimate descriptions of what you learned during this pandemic and what you learned in relationships. So one of the things I kind of wanted to, so this group was so honest, and there was tears, and a lot of there was a young person who spoke up and was just appreciative at the healing tree that the LGBTQ to spirit native population in Indian country was considered and talked about. And she started getting tears. And this is where one of our participants who I think the first response was, she said, well, I just want to understand, are you born gay or two-spirit, or is it something you learned because you were sexually abused? We're like, wow. And so that's how some of the healing dialogue started, was that we were able to keep everyone in the circle, and there was a reaction because it triggered some of the two-spirit and the LGBTQ, and we were able to do a lot of education. And and part of the education is the group really wanted to know, said it was a really good thing for us to ask what someone's pronouns are. And that was just a beautiful, so then the group went around and we said, tell us what your preferred pronouns were. And there were just some really, and I want to say some grandmas and some grandpas. They wanted to understand more, like, what, and then one grandpa said, I guess I'm a he, him, but I want to understand, what does it mean when you're non-binary? And what does it mean when you're gender fluid? And what does it mean when you prefer they? That was like a beautiful conversation. It was so beautiful to really, for all of us to say, let's just ask what a preferred pronoun is. And then from there, understand more. And so that happened. So we were, with the tears, I wanted to, read to you just a couple of the sexual abuse mindset around healthy sexuality. And the reason I'm just pointing it out, because when you're listening to this, since this is Wellness Wednesday, is see if this is something that you had in your past life, or you currently have, or you just don't want to have. Because that's wellness. Creating safe spaces. Yes, exactly. So, sexual abuse mindset is sex is uncontrollable energy, as opposed to healthy sexual attitude where sex is a controllable energy. Sexual abuse mindset is sex is an obligation. And healthy sexual attitude is that sex is a choice. And so I'm just going to pause there for a moment, because one of the things, good to see you, Nancy Stone. All right. I see some of the names popping up, is around consent, and that it's a choice. And so then there was healing talk, and in all of the circles, since I've been going around as Priscilla, or Badass Auntie, is that there's wounds around when sex is an obligation, like being owned, and then, it's, give it up. This is what I deserve, or we're in a commitment, or we might be in a marriage. And good to see you, Renee. We're just talking about healthy sexuality. What is the sexual abuse mindset and healthy sexual attitudes? So, in the discussion in our group, it was really it took us a while because we talked about what is consent. And really, and this is coming from a lot of the sisters, but also coming from the Two-Spirit LGBTQ around that consent is such a sacred item, and we should never assume, because I just remember the group saying, you can't assume that a woman is giving consent if she dresses up and looks sexy. So then sometimes, what does it mean to look sexy? Because sometimes I think, like what this design behind me is Anishinaabeg, and I think it's one of the sexiest coats I have. I just like wear this coat all the time. And so really one of the, in creating the safety, remembering that consent has to come from that woman's spirit, or from that human being's spirit. And that has to be, so I want you to just think about the consent, and that, when sex is an obligation, and it almost, that word obligation, like sometimes, if someone pays your rent, if someone takes care of your car payment, has some kind of power over, pays the rent, then do they think they're obligated that you should give sex to them for this obligation? Whoa. I mean, I'm laughing because we may 100 years ago and 50 years ago, we may have had a lot of sex obligations. I was just thinking about Leave It to Beaver. Remember, they had 2 different beds. Because they never insinuated any of this, but how did they have the kids if they didn't have sex? They just magically came. Anyway. And, yes, our body is not an invitation, Desiree. Exactly. I just love, please, just start commenting because, okay, so the other, I just wanted to, because we got an hour, and I wanted to just have comment too. In our group, one of the sexual abuse mindsets is that sex is addictive. And then the healthy sexuality attitude mindset is that sex is a natural drive. And whoa, so then a lot of our group was like, well, what is sex addiction? And so I would encourage you to, and it's good to see Ashley Thunderhawk. All right, Kanita Sherman. I'm just seeing you guys come on the feed. This is Native Wellness Institute's Power Hour. We've been doing it for 3 years, and it's Wellness Wednesday. And I'm at the Healing Tree Conference. And yesterday we just had a big old talking circle on healthy sexuality. And so this sex is addictive. Sex addiction is actually, you can go to treatment for it. But some symptoms is if you spend a lot of the day, because some of us thinking, but actually seeking sex, masturbation sex, pornography, buying sex, that those kind of more unhealthy behaviors, you may be suffering from sex addiction. But the sexual abuse mindset is that sex is addictive, so it's an addiction, so I should just be able to do it with wherever I want and wherever I want to get. I mean, it's like something to really explore the wound of sex addiction. I like several reservations that we're working with healing. We hear testimony that, when the churches came and there was a sexual abuse from the priests or the nuns or the altar boys, then it just spread down in the families. then they become the perpetrator. So I want to talk about the wellness, where sex is a natural drive. So understanding that creating the safe space, and that we all are sexual beings, and that sex is nurturing, it's healing, it's natural. Sex is an expression of love. The greatest, when you express, it's one of the human being ways that we've been given that's sacred, where we can express our love by making love with the person, not just having sex. Sex is sharing with someone. Sex is part of who I am. Sex is part of who you are. Sex requires communication. So let's just think about that, because one of the things that happened for us yesterday that was really just so cool is we started to talk about courtship and romance, and how courtship. The question was, how long did your courtship last before you had sex? And it was just so cool, because there was so many, and they were intimate stories, is that, that they knew this was the right person because they got to know each other. They got to communicate together. They got to go on several dates. They got to see where each other lived. They got to explore each other, how they like to live. What kind of bed you like to sleep on, what kind of music you listen to, what kind of food do you like to prepare. There was actually someone was saying that the greatest flirtation is to cook with someone. That is foreplay. As I was thinking, oh yeah, just take that strawberry. Oh yeah. And so the group started talking, and where it was safe, and it wasn't like, because there was a couple people just like went, oh, I can't believe you're asking me if I masturbate. Oh, I can't believe that, but they were laughing. And that is what they started to say. That's what they love about reservation dogs, is that there's the humor around these wounds. Oh, Lux, did you lose me? If someone says, I'm lost. Can you still see me? I hear watching. Brenda, I hope I didn't get lost. Nina just said she lost. Okay, so I'm going to continue talking, because it says I still have a signal here. And so, give me a thumbs up if I'm still live, because someone said they lost me. Brenda, am I still live? Brenda, pretty weasel. Oh, we good. Steven, thank you. Steven. Steven is just one of our, I guess, our adopted family. We might as well make it official. We have adopted Steven starting, I guess, 3 years ago with the pandemic. Lottie's on, Kanita, Sherman. Okay, I see you. Awesome. So in our session, I just wanted to describe, yesterday we started talking about healthy sexuality and what that meant. And there was a wish in the room. And the wish came after, I told the story of working with a group of elders for 55 and older. And they're going to be meeting, but when we meet, we ask them to make a snag bag. And they're making 100 snag bags, and they've made them, and they sent one. And so I passed the snag bag around, and the snag bag, some of the humor that happened with this group, because they said, when they went to Walgreens and they asked, there was 3 of them, 3 elders, and they said, could we get 100 tubes of KY jelly? And they said, you should have seen how they looked at us. Anyway, they had KY jelly. They had chewing gum, because you should have fresh smelling breath. They had a toothbrush and toothpaste. They had condoms. They had, I don't have it in front of me, but they had this whole bag of things that you, and someone even, hey, Linda Herrera. You want an elder snag bag? It was, but this was the funny, Linda, you would have cracked up yesterday, because one of the elders in the group took out the toothbrush, And she holds up the toothbrush and she kind of goes to the group. Toothbrush? What's the toothbrush for? So we all started laughing and we go, that's you got to clean between your legs. You got to take the toothbrush and scrub under your scrotum and scrub around your vulva. You got to scrub your. And I don't know, the group, we laughed for 5 minutes early because we had to contain ourselves. And see, that's the healing. That's the healing, is that we were laughing because she was safe enough to say, what's this part for when you're snagging? And I told her, it's kind of like on reservation dogs when they were smudging their vaginas. The toothbrush is to clean your vagina. and then one of, oh yeah, Johnny, thank you for bringing up the traditional stories. So when this was passed around, but I just want to say to you that after we were done, there's at least 7 people that I had one-on-one sessions with, and one of the pronouns that this person used was he, him. And he said that he's been in so much grief. He just lost a best friend to suicide not too long ago, that he just has forgotten to laugh. And he stayed, and he said, I haven't laughed because I've just been crying. And think about it. I said, I haven't laughed because I just been crying. And so, we talked about, up your spinal cord, and even, the spa. I was in a spa getting a massage. That stimulus for crying and for laughing goes up. So you can heal by laughing. It just branches. That's why sometimes we cry at joyous things, or we laugh at tragedy. And so I wanted to encourage you in yourself. That's why reservation dogs, watching our own people, the humor around what goes on there is in the stories. It helps us heal. Plus, it helps when you look at the screen and people look like you do. I just love, my favorite is Cheese. I just love how Cheese looks. Because he's he looks like, I have 60 first cousins and second cousins and hundreds and thousands of third cousins, and they all look like Cheese. They're brown. They're just who they are. So I wanted to just spend some time with you, because we're the wellness, the healing tree that I'm at. I'm gonna go back in because people are eating lunch, and I didn't want to try to interview people while they're chewing. And the thing, you can't be laughing and chewing at the same time because you can choke. So, but I wanted to continue with this sexual attitudes that came up in our session yesterday. And it's still, when I went back in, people were saying, we want to hear more. So one of my my nephews in real life is a young man named Terrence Laframboy. And Terrence is just one of those men and fathers and husbands who just is 20s going into 30s. They just had a baby. He's just an example of a stand-up, integrity, ethical kind of man. So he'll be presenting. So I wanted to go in and, the badass auntie, what our role is encouragement. And all of, the 200 participants here is to give encouraging words, is to give, you're doing good. Wow. You just compliment for what they're looking. Because I noticed today, after all that crying and laughing, when I went in today, everybody had bright eyes. Everybody had clarity, and everybody was they didn't even say words. They just started coming and hugging me without words, just hey. So I was having the hug therapy, but I noticed their spirit had a strong life force. And that strong life force, you can see it. that's really different than someone who is won't make eye contact or keeps down, or are just their energy, and it has to do with energy. And so since it's Wellness Wednesday, we just wanted you to think about, how's your wellness energy and how do you uplift it? So I want to just say what we realized yesterday in our session on healthy sexuality is, and this was important because the group we talked about, sex is private, and that's really different from the sexual abuse mindset, which says sex is secretive. And again, the healing happened when someone could be in a safe place and tell their secret. And often that secret is when someone took advantage of them and and had sex with them without their permission. And so that we're only sick as our secrets. And so one of the things that happened here at the Healing Tree is people got to tell what happened to them as a child, what happened to them in a marriage. You can still get raped in a marriage. What happened to them when they were a teenager, and how, and it was interesting because there was dialogue on that in order to heal and to feel, you had to get sober first. And some of the clinicians, they had been trained differently, like, maybe social drinking. But let's just say Badass Auntie's going to read the rule from Badass Aunties. Indians ain't supposed to drink. There has never been a situation in which drinking, where our ancestors said, oh, go forth and just drink and drink and drink. Oh, yeah, Linda, yeah, recharge. So then what we talked about is, how do we get recharged? We get recharged by being, in 12-step meetings, being in, it's like on Res Dogs, they said white people go to Cancun, Indians go to IHS conferences, are the Healing Tree conferences, are the, it is just what we do, and have safe places where we can tell the story till we get it out, and we don't have to talk about that traumatic story anymore. And that was, the group was saying, when you don't cry about it anymore. I mean, I was sexually abused by a medicine person, and I don't need to go, but I can say that now, and I'm just going to let that settle, because today I don't have to cry about it, because I've done enough therapy. I'll be sober 35 years pretty soon here. And I actually pray for that, because he's still alive, practicing as a medicine man. And I've counseled other women that he perpetrated, and I have to say, I pray for him. I'm at a different place. But when it first happened, it was a secret, and I didn't want to talk about it. And I just talked about it to selected people. And then as in therapy, I learned I got to talk it out and feel it out. And then as I did that, I did more healing. So like right now, it's not like I'm perfect. And I'm not saying I can't get triggered, because when we were in our group yesterday and we heard some of the stories where people were wounded with sex, that they need to tell the story, and they need to cry, and they need to have a safe space. There was one woman who just bawled and cried and sobbed and didn't talk at all, but we just let her sob. We just held her, just let her cry it out. And then she she did the healing, and she said, thank you. And then she wanted to go, and because her snots cry till your snots come out. So let's, I have to, because the group was, right now, we're going back in there, and there is another couple of days of healing. But this healthy sexuality, and since this is what happened with the Badass Auntie Priscilla, is we started saying what was the sexual abuse mindset and what was the healthy sexual attitude. So sex is respectful, the healthy sexual attitude. Sex is honest. Sex is mutual. Sex is intimate. Sex is responsible. Sex is safe. And the group, they really decided to, they wanted to concentrate on that instead of the sexual abuse mindset where sex is exploitive. Sex is deceitful. Sex benefits one person. Sex is emotionally distant. Sex is irresponsible. Sex is unsafe. So, I think in this remaining time, what the group, what we started to heal with is they wanted to talk about what is healthy courtship. What is, and so one of the things that the group talked about is that how far in your family are you away from arranged marriages? And was the traditional arranged marriages, was it a good thing? So there were several who, my parents were in arranged marriage, and they were born in 1937 and 1938. And the way that I knew that is because when my mother was 14, Joe Boss Iron Pipe was teaching her how to get the fish out of Big Badger, giant. We had trout that was had pink meat like salmon, and they were giant, and they could feed 14 working men, because she would gut it and then put willow leaves in the cavity and put it in a gunny sack and put it back into the river, Big Badger, and it was like the refrigerator, and she said it would keep 7 to 10 days, and she could still feed all of them with one of those big fish. And so when she was telling me these stories, she told me more stories, and I realized, and this was just Joe Boss was trying to see at that age if my mother could be a good wife to my father by knowing how to survive off the land. They both knew, and I think about, so that it's good to hear the stories of your grandparents, of your great-grandparents, and of your mother and father, and to look at what was courtship. And of course, I just love, the stories of, in order to go with sometimes it'd be chaperones that would follow. And, and this is hetero, but there was also our two-spirit. Our two-spirit often were holy people because they're so sacred. But we'll talk about just man and woman for a moment. That'll be another power hour. So in courtship, often when they were together, there was chaperones. So, when you have young people dating, you need to think, to guide them along. Is there a chaperone? A chaperone. And like yesterday, it was so cute because we had a couple who were just inseparable. They just sat close to each other. They held hands. But they were being chaperoned by all of us because it was a safe place where they obviously had a commitment of, they were young and they liked each other. And sex is a natural drive. Falling in love is a natural drive. And so think about courtship. Think about courtship of, watching media or watching televisions. It's, bringing you the flowers, bringing you. So I was thinking, so someone said, part of our courtship is he bought me a car. So I was like, whoa, that's courtship. Here, honey, here's your brand new car. But let's talk about things that's not associated with money. Like one of, in this courtship in our remaining times, the things that was kind of just good to our ears was he made me a song. He sang me a song. He wrote me poetry. He took me to the spa. I was just in the spa, and there was a hot date going on in there. They went into the spa as man and woman. And, when we kind of like debrief, I just thought, and I was just finishing mine, but the date was they went to the spa and he was paying for it. They went to the spa, they got massaged, they got good smelling stuff. They got, they had these chairs where you could elevate and you could get massaged, and there was the salt room where you could smell things and where you could just court each other. And I noticed they were both when you get a massage, you have that massage mind. I still have it right now. Like, I'm just totally like, woohoo, just relax. That was courtship. And sometimes courtship, I was telling them, I was young. I was in the 9th grade, and I got asked out by this Luis Bustamante, and he was from Mexico, Spanish speaking. And he said, I have to meet your father. I said, okay. So he went and met my father and asked my father, and this is like, the first time, here's Dad. He asked my father if he could take me out on a date. And Dad was kind of like a little bit flabbergasted because he was like, okay. But then this is what Dad, here's Dad's control. He goes, but you have to have her back by midnight. And you have to bring, you get to go on this date. So he knew Dad was, and then, Dad had that look like, okay, this is Dad. You get to take my daughter out, but you have to, I'm looking at you. And you have to have her by midnight. And then I remember going out with him, and we went out and ate, and we just walked and we held hands. We didn't even kiss yet, but we walked and we held hands. And then he kept saying, well, we only got this time. I promised your father I would bring you back. And I can't, so courtship is about going to the father, going to the mother, going to the grandparents. And courtship is about getting permission to court. And then once you're in courtship, it's almost like, it's not just like snagging. Yeah, we went snag bags, but it's like a promise. It's like a commitment to get into courtship. And courtship can last a long time. I was just, this is funny in our family. My brother is married to Minnie Boggs, and they lived together and for 25 years before they got married. And it was just so beautiful because when they did get married, they were living in a different state and all this stuff. They owned property. So it was, anyway, we said, wow, 25 years of courtship. And, in that time, because, he's got a beautiful wife. And in that time, they went through, living together, raising children together. They got grandchildren. They're raising but here they had, their courtship was 25 years before they got married. I think about that. And so I'm just, sharing with you, because yesterday, we have about 7 minutes left, is the group. We got happy when we started talking about dating, courtship, and romance. And that was this, and so we ended with and I just have to relook at my notes, because the group said sex has boundaries and sex is empowering. And our remaining time, and people didn't want to, they stayed to take a picture with the badass auntie, but they stayed to just visit, and they didn't want to leave the room because it was a safe space. But they were in that space where, sex, you have to have the boundaries. And so what is a boundary? And what is a boundary? And sometimes, like here we are on Wellness Wednesday, Native Wellness Institute. a boundary is like a force field that is around you, your spirit, your space, your time. I think one of and the group started talking about, because like we were talking about screen time. So like we said, well, are you supposed to be staring at your phone when you're having sex? Ah, no, that's not a good boundary. Anyway, boundaries is where you take care of your sacred space, your sacred spirit, your sacred values, your sacred belief systems, your sacred protocols, boundaries. And so I guess I kind of, like so the group talked about boundaries with screen time and sex time. So boundaries, raise your hand. Hey, raise your hand if you have phone sex. Hey, with FaceTime. Woohoo. But the boundaries was that you should both be well rested. It should both be mutual. That it should, that you should even go away. And so maybe, go away on a honeymoon, even though you've been together. Or you're just like a honeymoon where you don't have deadlines, you don't have distractions of where you have to get up, and that you spend time together, that you either cook together. And they really liked the cooking together. They said somehow that was really sexy when you cook together. But the boundaries is to be communicative between the two partners, even if they're the same sex. The boundaries is to talk it out, to communicate, say what you like, say where you like to be touched. Say what you like to be in the room, if there's candlelight. And even just coming from the spa, I could see the date that they were on, because the guy, went back in the chair and just sat right back up. But the woman was just, ooh, this is like good. This is good. So remember that women have a different pacing. That's a boundary. Remember that men have a different pacing. And you have to teach each other what is healthy foreplay before you actually have any lovemaking. And so I guess that's, wow, that's like, I just Wellness Wednesday. So Native Wellness Institute, some things that are coming up, and we want to invite you in these last minutes. We're having a very large gathering in Vancouver, British Columbia in September 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's called Healing the Spirit Worldwide. About 30 countries are coming together, and our executive director, Jillian Joseph, is on the planning board. We have 30 countries coming together talking about healing. People of color from Peru, Bolivia, Brazil, Australia, all across Canada. And then, I just want to ask you guys to pray, because I heard there was an earthquake in Peru, Ecuador, 6.8. It's for us to come together and to talk about healing our spirit with our ceremonies, with our songs, with our dance. And so that will be happening in September. The other thing we want to invite you to is just to go to Native Dads Network, Mike Duncan, Olive Mary Hummingbird. They have several things coming up by Boys with Braids, April 1st. Native American Health Center and April McGill. We're having a women's conference April 1st out in San Francisco at the Great Wakazoo Hall. And there's just several things. We have Zoom. We're still doing Zoom for those of you who don't have the travel budget. We're still doing in-person. There's a lot of training of trainers. I think Al Pooley and Amy, who's executive director of the National American Indian Fathers and Family Association, has several trainings coming up, NAFA. We also want to invite you to the Great White Bison man, they just got some really, daughters of tradition, sons of tradition. They have a really good training around relapse after getting out of prison. The warrior down. They just have so many trainings. So we're going to leave you with that. And the reason I'm mentioning those organizations is because Native Wellness Institute, White Bison, NAFA, and Native Dads Network have made a commitment to ally with each other because we have healing in common and not to compete, to uncolonize with competition, which is what the settlers and kind of want us to do. So I just want to invite you to go to any of those sites. I just want to kind of wave. I see some people come and share this because Wellness Wednesday is just to bring healing to Indian country. And Native Wellness, we're about keeping the teachings of our ancestors alive. Anything that falls under that umbrella of keeping the teachings of our ancestors alive, we do it. So I'll just say, in my language, we always say, see you later, Kitakito Matsano, and Kitsikako Mem. Love you very much.